last week in the third quarter when they cut the lead to 3, it seemed like offensively you guys kind of like just pushed the button and took it to another level. Talk a little bit about the method to madness behind that. Was that a special section of a play sheet that you had ready, or was it just coincidental? And how do you feel that this week going to the Louisville game that you could get more out of the passing game?
Well, I think, first of all, you give UAB a lot of credit. They came into that game and really honestly ran a defense they'd never ran before. So they've been a really good defense for the last couple of years. Predominantly running a different scheme, and they threw a big curveball at us. And so I thought our kids adjusted really well on the fly in the first half for something we hadn't spent a lot of time on. But I think part of that third quarter was we had some time to make some adjustments at halftime to help them out. We made some on the fly in the first half, but I think that helped us get going a little bit and get the tempo going. And that third quarter was closer to what we want to be. And yeah, I think the passing game is always the last thing to come along with anybody. There's just a lot more detail to be on the same page. And we were a little off on some things. We still had a good completion percentage. We didn't turn the ball over, didn't have a lot of drops, but there's definitely some passes and some deep balls there that, we need to hit if we want to be explosive. And but I also think the way UAB ended up deciding to play us was lending itself for us to run the football. And so that's kind of how games go, especially first games. A lot of times you got to adjust, and we did the best we could there.
Coach, we're going to Manny Navarro at The Athletic. Manny?
Hey, Coach. Obviously, you just said it, that they kind of I don't want to say forced you to run, but they kind of ran a defense that let you guys have a lot of success doing that. I'm curious, when you got Brevin Jordan, I wonder, teams obviously know about him now. I saw you ran a play in the third quarter to just kind of easily get the ball in his hands. Just what the focus is on that and getting Brevin involved in the offense.
Yeah, we're always going to try to get our best players the ball. Right now, we're learning everybody, and so, like I said, that first half, you almost after the first drive kind of ripped the game plan up and threw it away, and so we were having to adjust to how they were playing us, and I thought our guys adjusted very well. I think we scored on our second drive, and then, we scored in the second quarter, and we were moving the ball on 2 drives in the second quarter. One, we kind of got stalled out after they reviewed a catch we made, and then we had a penalty or 2 that kind of ruined our drive. So we kind of had some self-inflicted wounds there in the second quarter, and we weren't able to get Brevin and a couple of other guys going as early as we had hoped. But we got them going in the third quarter, and I think that obviously you showed that helped our offense. So, usually the first 2, 3, 4 games of a season, especially when you're new, you're just kind of learning what guys can and can't do. And I think we learned a lot in week 1, and hopefully that'll make us a lot better in week 2.
Coach, we're going to Barry Jackson at the Miami Herald. Barry, if you had a question for Coach Lashlee.
Hi, Rhett. Just a couple of things on receivers. I was curious why Marshall Few is ahead of Restrepo at this point. And also, is there a pretty significant gap, small gap between your 4 veteran receivers? I include Peyton in that group, even though obviously he hasn't played very much. And the 4 freshmen, are they just at this point better positioned because of experience, age, et cetera?
Yeah, I think with those older guys, experience is a big factor right now. We really like our young receivers. And I think as the year goes on, you'll see those guys help us more and more, especially in the first game. You can't say enough about experience. And those other 4 guys, as you're alluding to, have played a lot of ball. With Marshall Few, Marshall's a senior. Marshall's very reliable, very dependable. Xavier's got a lot of ability. We're really excited about his future. But there's just a consistency element there, very similar to what you said about the other 4 guys.
Coach, we're going to David Lake at InsideTheU. David?
Coach, wanted to get your assessment on how Derek did as a passer, and specifically just how impressed are you by his pocket presence? Is he one of the better guys you've coached in that regard?
I think when you look at it as a whole, he was okay throwing the football. I think he'll be the first to tell you he can be better. We've seen him be better. It was game 1. Like I said, we ended up adjusting. They threw some stuff at us, so we did some things a little bit differently than we practiced. So sometimes that can throw your timing off. I think, he'd like to have a couple of vertical passes back. He still completed 65% of his passes. If you do that in a season, you've had a pretty good year. He protected the football. We didn't have any interceptions or put the ball in jeopardy very often. And so it just takes some time. Receivers, tight ends, quarterbacks, game is different than practice, getting on the same page, the routes being run exactly like they need to be run, the timing. I think that's something we'll get better in. We need to get better in if we want to have a chance as the games really get tougher and tougher each week from here on out. His pocket presence was good. I think it's a little bit of a double-edged sword. One of his strengths is, man, he made some incredible plays when things broke down or when he saw a crease. He dropped back and take off and get a big conversion or a big run. And I think he'll tell you there's some times he could have hung in there. We had some guys open downfield. We took 2 sacks that really weren't on the O-line, to be honest with you. I think we could have got the ball out. And so I think for game 1 he did fine, but I think he can be better.
Coach, we've got time for a couple more. We're going to go to David Ferrones at the Sun Sentinel. David, if you had a question for Coach Lashlee.
Hey, Coach, I wanted to ask about Ja'Kai Clark getting over to first team left guard. Just what you saw out of Usman Traore and also just what you think Clark can provide moving up.
Yeah, we got a lot of confidence in both those guys. Ja'Kai missed a considerable amount of time in fall camp with an injury, and so I think that kind of slowed the progression of where we thought he would be. He's been good the last few weeks. Uz was okay the other night. I mean, we kind of feel like we have 6 or 7 guys that could start. You talk about Uz and Ja'Kai, talk about Zion, who played a lot last year. I mean, but we just feel like right now it's a good opportunity to give Ja'Kai that shot. But I don't think there's any question that we're going to need Uz to win football games this year. But I think just Coach Justice felt like now that he's been healthy in the last couple of weeks and kind of getting his bearings that he's slated to have a good week for us.
I also wanted to ask real quick about how you felt game 1 went as far as receivers and the communication with the quarterback. I know there was one play, Jeremiah Payton appeared to run the wrong route and came through a deep ball while he was coming back. Were there any other noticeable ones, or and how do you feel the guys did overall in that respect?
Oh, there was only one. It's the one you're referring to as 3rd and long, and obviously that's a bad time to have one. But for the most part, no, it was good. There was not a lot of busts. Guys knew what to do. It's more about the execution. Is the route ran the proper way? Is the quarterback's timing correct? Is he sitting in the pocket correct? A lot is made about, hey, we ran the ball. We want to throw it more. Look, we want to be balanced. We want to be explosive throwing the ball. I think we'll get better each week. That's definitely a big point of emphasis for us right now. And again, I think that's fairly normal for that to take a little longer than a run game to come along. At the same time, focusing on the positives, when you had to run the football, our 3 running backs and our quarterback and our O-line stepped up, and even our tight ends blocking. And for us to, if you run for 337 yards on anybody, it's been a good night in the running game. And so we're going to take that as a positive, because if you can run the ball effectively, it's going to make your passing game more effective as well.
Coach, this is the last one. We got Chris Stock from InsideTheU. Chris, if you had a question for Coach Lashlee.
Yeah, Coach, just going back to Ja'Kai Clark, he only had 3 snaps in that last game. Was there any consideration making that move during the game? Was it something you saw afterwards? Can you just maybe explain a little bit of the decision-making process with that?
Yeah, I don't think in game there was ever a real reason to panic or make a change. We were obviously running the ball fairly effectively. I thought we were giving De'Aaron plenty of time when we were dropping back to pass. I think it was just a combination of, going into the game, we felt both guys were ready to play. But in terms of the bulk of fall camp, Uz had been there for all of it, and we felt like he deserved that opportunity. At the same time, going back, looking at the tape, and then just the last couple of weeks of practice, I think Coach Justice and myself just felt like right now this was the best time for us to make that move. But again, nothing's permanent. Both guys will be ready to play, and we'll see how it goes.
Awesome. Coach Lashlee, thanks for spending a few minutes with us. I'm sure we'll be talking to you soon.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you.